Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting installment of Voices from the Grid. I'm your host for today, the Pink Ranger, Brian Massey, and I am joined by my friend, my confidant, and the ever opinionated and always boisterous but ever lovable Green Ranger, Ben Taylor. How are you today, sir?
Hello, it's me, your boy. I'd be much better if we weren't talking about these two episodes.
You know what? I can agree with that. So, ladies, gentlemen, non-binary pals, and the like. Today we're going to be talking about episodes 49 and 50 of Power Rangers Zeo, which just so happened to be the final episodes of Power Rangers Zeo.
But just there will be a seasonal wrap-up episode next week.
Yeah, yes, there will be. However, the reason why I say it like that, yes, we're going to be talking about it with the other two.
Yeah.
And we'll get into this, but you'll see, like, the reason why I feel hesitant to call this a season finale is because it doesn't really feel.
It just doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
But we'll get to that. Let's do Hawaii Zeo first.
Absolutely. All right. So Hawaii Zeo, episode 49 of 50. And thank you, Ranger Wiki, for making the synopsises readily available, so we don't have to come up with our own. Hawaii Zeo. Ernie is throwing a luau at his beach club, and Tommy, after some encouragement from his teammates, works up the courage to finally ask Kat out on a date with the luau as the perfect opportunity. Meanwhile, Jason's powers begin to fade, and the reason why is a mystery for now. Now, the beginning of the episode, we see the Rangers getting attacked by Prince Gasket and Archerina and a bunch of cogs. Specifically Jason.
Yeah.
And we immediately see that Prince Gasket has Jason on the ropes, at which point Sprocket, everybody's favorite character, shows up, interrupts him. They get into this giant argument, and the Rangers are able to get away. And Sprocket's telling his big brother, dude, I got this amazing idea, which we later learn he hopes will backfire and destroy both of them so that he can be king, I believe, or at least go up a rank in the throne. What are your thoughts on this initially?
There are a lot of interesting things here. Because of the serialized nature of the way Zeo does multi-part arcs, I had to go back and make sure, because we're starting in media res with Jason being attacked and running through the forest, right?
Right.
Sorry. And then that's the next episode where the Rangers are fighting.
Yes.
And I had to go back an episode to make sure this wasn't something that was carrying over from the previous episode, but the previous episode is the one where Billy left. The Billy that wasn't actually Billy.
Old man Billy.
And his voice was someone else, but that's for when those episodes are recorded.
Yes.
But like Jason is reeling under the attack from whatever it is that they're fighting. And it's quite clear that his powers aren't doing too good. Right?
Yeah. It's
I don't know. This is and for the record, this has come out of nowhere. Right? There's been no tease of this. There's been no small incremental build up to this. It's just out of nowhere. An episode before the end of the season, bam, Jason's losing his powers.
Well, yeah, like there's no gold candle that's burning down to its last little bit. There's no, like, yeah, there's no indication of that
It's
whatsoever.
no
But all of this,
contrived plot from the Machine Empire. Like
yeah,
they're not causing it; it's just happening.
yeah, which we will later find out more about in the final episode, which is wow, that's some timing. But yeah, we find out, hey, Jason's kind of going through a similar thing that Tommy went through with the Green Ranger powers, only it's happening, like you said, way faster. So
Yeah, and it's not being caused, right? It's
yeah,
just happening.
yeah. Like, and I'll mention this in the next episode that we talk about here today, but it's almost like it reminds me of uh what Eddie Brock eventually found out about Venom,
Yeah,
the Venom symbiote, where it was like, oh well, ugh. And like if it had stayed on Peter, but we're not talking about Spider-Man. um just a kind of a the best comparison I could think of. And so yeah, Sprocket's got this plan, and it's not the most involved plan, but like yeah, he's secretly in the back while all this is happening and the Rangers get away. He's hoping that like this will take out his
it
brother.
makes you wonder, right? Like it, Prince Gasket is quite handily beaten up on the Rangers for a little while now.
Yeah,
Why haven't they thought about making him big before?
I don't know, and it's and I'm skipping up a few notes, but like they what I love about it is like the Machine Empire, they think of that idea as like, wow, why haven't we thought of that yet? Wow, we should absolutely do that. And I'm just sitting there like, you know how many times Goldar was like
Yeah,
however many feet tall? Like it's not it's not a
yeah.
new idea, guys.
I don't know. For people that are put off as being super sort of intelligent and ruling over an entire galaxy, they're really bad at their jobs.
Yeah.
Like they're squat and babu bad at their jobs.
I mean, yeah, like because at least you know our lovable bony boy Rito, at least he was like smart in the way that a clock is right 2 times a day. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like at least Rito, like, and I love it about Rito. Like he's dumber than a pile of rocks or bones, but like at least like he would do something and he would fail upwards. These guys, they're like, you know, one step forward, 2 steps back. It feels like, and
Yeah.
it just I'm so glad that we're not gonna have to deal with them next season. Christ.
Yeah, but we
But
get
moving.
Elgar, so
Yeah. Okay. So after all of that, Jason has to have tests run on him to discern how the gold powers are working for him due to stress and if they're waning or not. But in the next scene, where Ernie returns, by the way, from Hawaii. Hi, Ernie.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, they were
I
getting
should have
ready
said
to
that.
write him out, weren't they?
I believe they were.
Because he
Um,
gets written out either like right at the beginning of Turbo or like a couple of episodes into Turbo.
yeah, I believe Lieutenant Stone takes over, and I believe the
Oh, he definitely takes over.
yeah the unfortunate sad reality of it is I believe the actor was having some really bad health
Yeah,
issues.
he was
So they had,
having really bad health issues, which is why I was because he
yeah.
died in like 2008, I think.
So and I mean, you know, I've grown to love Ernie. I mean, well, I always loved Ernie. So it, you know, we got to see one last big hurrah from him. So I'm happy about that. Um, in regards back to Jason, Jason says the test came back negative, and this is like in a span
Neg-
of maybe 2 scenes.
Negative for
They're
what?
exactly right. They're just like he's just like, yeah, test came back negative for like what exactly? Like um I don't know, being a VR trooper? I don't know. Like and do you think that they could have like not done this scene like back to back with the last one in order to like create more suspense and lead more into the next episode, or what do you think? Like, do you think that like Jason saying that was way too premature?
Yeah, they absolutely should not have put this scene in this episode because it would have made
Yeah.
next episode make more sense.
Yeah. I completely, because like the next episode, like if we find out, hey, Jason's, instead of him coming up and saying, hey, the test came back negative, I'm fine. If he had not known, I feel like that puts even more, like, as this episode wraps up, it gives him way more of like a choice of like, do I go out and fight or what's up, and like
Yeah.
you could do more with him that way. So I personally felt that that was kind of premature.
Yeah, no,
Um,
like, especially considering something we'll find out during Good as Gold.
yeah,
The fact that these tests came back negative, which obviously means he was cleared for duty, make no
yeah.
sense.
Do you think maybe the test was like, I kind of want to chalk this up to like, well, this is what happens when Billy isn't around.
Well, I mean,
We get,
Alpha even says, "I wish Billy were here."
yeah, like, because maybe I could chalk that up as an excuse as to why the tests came back, maybe not as
Well,
conclusive
we
as
don't
they
know what
should
they
have
were
been.
testing for, right? Like,
Yeah.
they could
So
have been like, "Oh, is someone draining his powers?"
yeah,
Like
is he
an
under a
outside source draining his powers, but I don't know.
is he under a spell like in the last 3 seasons? Like what
Yeah.
happened? Um. Okay. So my next episode or my next question. Um. Tommy is afraid to ask Kat out initially. Thoughts or lack thereof?
My note merely says Tommy doesn't think Kat is into him? Question mark. What? Question mark.
Dude,
And not like the punctuation.
yeah.
A question mark. I've written the words question mark.
Question mark.
Um,
Very nice.
like it's bizarre when of all of the people in the Power Rangers, Tommy, the one that has previously had an on-screen girlfriend,
Yeah.
who admittedly dumped him via a letter because they couldn't get Amy Jo Johnson back for a voice cameo. He's the one that doesn't see that Kat has been sycophantically obsessed with him for a season and a half at this point.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to. Like, Kat is 2 steps away from being a bunny boiler. You know what I mean?
I'm
That's
sorry,
a
a bunny
very
boiler?
old dated reference for those of you who there's a movie called Fatal Attraction
Oh,
with
okay.
Glenn
Okay.
Close and Michael Douglas.
Oh my,
And
wow.
in Fatal Attraction, someone boils someone else's rabbit when they start trying to sort of hit on someone they like. So yeah, Kat is like 2 steps removed from being a bunny boiler. Like,
I
she is
honestly,
sycophantically obsessed.
I honestly thought that this was like when you said bunny boiler, I honestly thought it was like some old, like no longer in use, like English slang.
Oh yeah, no, it's like a movie from like 1987.
Yeah, well, no, I'm aware of it, but it's like I was like, wait, bunny boiler, like, oh my god, like that just, anyways. I was like, I'm gonna learn a new slang today. That's cool. I'm gonna be chuffed to bits about it. Um, but yeah, she's had Gaga eyes for him since him
The
and
moment they met,
yeah, him and Kim were dating and they were a thing,
yeah,
like, and that was
literally
like,
the moment that she lays eyes on him for the first time, she's got Google eyes for him.
and so like, and he does this thing too when finally he goes up to her And he's like, yeah, so yeah. And I'm like, dude, don't no. What are you doing? Like that just seemed, and I know how much we don't like Tommy on this show, but like even still, like that just seems so out of character for Tommy to just be like, oh shucks, you want to go on the prom with me? Like
Like, I
he's
get that
just
he, like, don't get me wrong, right? I remember dating at his age,
yeah,
right? And or the age he's supposed to be. And
25 going on 16.
having gotten a Dear John letter,
Yeah,
and immediately then going on a snowboarding holiday where you kind of become attracted to a woman that's like twice your age. Because I think the snowboarder was supposed to be much older than him, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
And then that doesn't go anywhere. And you're at that point where you're just like, I just
I mean, okay, in that regards, and I guess I can speak personally for my own life. Like, yeah, I can kind of understand the whole I'm not ready to date thing for a while, but
but
like
I
at the
don't
same
think it's
time,
not him saying I'm not ready to date.
yeah,
He doesn't seem to be reading the signs that she's giving off.
yeah, it's. I feel like it's both of those things. Because again, like I said, she has goo goo eyes for him. Like she's pretty much just like, yo, hey, I'm right here, and he says like, thanks for being such a great friend. It's like, dude.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
So, my God.
And like, I'm not going to be that guy, but when he was introduced, Adam was introduced as this slightly socially awkward, not very confident in himself with anything but martial arts kind of guy, right?
Yeah,
When he's the one telling Tommy, dude, really? You know what I mean? They
yeah,
definitely, and I know they've put some time into developing Adam's personality, but like even Rocky later on says exactly the same thing.
yeah. It's like it's obvious to everybody except for the one guy,
Yeah,
which which I will admit does happen more often than you would think. It just the way it's portrayed is a little weird to me. Um, yeah. So if you wanted to, if moving on from that, let's talk about the heroes of the show, Bulk and Skull. So Bulk and the real heroes of the show, Bulk and Skull, everybody. They return to the office to find a stack of bills and an angry Detective Stone, which, by the way, I am not a fan of his sideburns.
I'm just not a fan of him.
Yeah, but the sideburns make him even more douchey.
Yeah, I guess.
Um, uh, so what are your thoughts on their current past due bills status and their lack of work?
My
Like,
my note is Lieutenant Stone is bad at life.
yes, like,
There is no way you can get that many bills suddenly out of the blue.
yeah,
Like it just doesn't happen. Now,
I
yes, I know
feel,
it's being done for comedy effect and all that kind of thing, right? But
yeah. I almost want to say what probably happened was a memo went out at Saban Studios, and they were just like, all right, every employee ever, any junk mail that you have, bring it into the office on Friday. We're gonna put it on a table and shoot it.
yeah,
That's probably how they did that. And moving on to their whole lack of work thing, I got a question for you. What do you dislike more in this episode? Tommy trying to ask Cat out, or Bulk and Skull literally begging on their knees for work?
um, which do I dislike more?
Yes, sir.
Broken Skull begging on the knees for work.
Yeah.
Like Tommy asking Cat out. Yes, that has a much longer ranged aggravation thing for me. But at least the fact that he's somewhat awkward about it is kind of realistic for
Sure.
being a high school kid. And think about it, I don't think he ever really just asked Kim out. It just kind of happened, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I've talked a lot this season about the regression of Bulk and Skull, and we both know that with what happened, and we'll get to it in Good as Gold. After the season, there was going to be no more Bulk and Skull.
Yeah.
They were headed off to do their own spin-off show,
Mhm.
right? Which is maybe why they spiraled a bit more back towards the comedy side of things. And if so, it's understandable that they do the begging on their knees kind of thing because they were trying to go for the comedy. But I don't like it as a fan of Bulk and Skull, as we know them in their complete journey.
It just, yeah. I mean, and the point of it is obviously to show them that they're like down and out on their luck, but it just, guys, get up. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're begging Ernie for like security work at this
Also,
point.
like, and again, this is over analysis by adults. Like, they're employees of Lieutenant Stone, or Detective Stone, as he is at this point.
Yeah.
It's not their fault that the bills haven't been paid.
Yeah, and the few episodes I have seen Detective Stone literally just sitting on his ass doing nothing.
Yeah.
And he's putting the blame on them.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but to me, that's a bad boss. It's a very bad boss. That's a boss that is very soon going to be having to put up a out of business sign on the front of the window. So yeah, it they're not in a good spot here, and they wind up. Oh my god, they wind up doing security detail at this luau, and they somehow don't get the memo that it's supposed to be Hawaiian. So they put on like Native American war paint, and they have tomahawks.
Yeah, it's a little racially insensitive, isn't it?
Yeah, my note here is, wow, if this happened nowadays, they would get crucified on Twitter. Like, this is like, it was not the best thought plan. And I know it's played for comedy, but like in 2022, I'm watching it going, Noosh.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. And I also don't know about that, especially considering, and thank God I haven't watched these episodes yet, but the whole like Tommy going on the Spirit Quest thing too, and all this stuff. And it just feels like they're still trying to tap into that, I guess.
It's this weird. There's this weird sort of 90s thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where how do I put this? They wanted to show diversity and inclusion. Like, you see this with the episode with Kim's deaf friend, or the one with Penny, the blind girl, earlier in the season. They wanted to include diversity and things like that, but they also had like a uniquely 90% white cast, cis white cast. So dealing with racial inclusion is very complicated. But like these 90s show, they all wanted to show this diversity and inclusion and how we can be better towards each other and that kind of thing. And this is just a massive fail on that scale, you know.
Which is even more bizarre given how the modus operandi of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers or Power Rangers in general was always to be really inclusive and include different types of people from different backgrounds.
Right,
So yeah,
but at the same time, they weren't always good about it.
no, they
Like,
weren't.
speaking from personal experience, earlier in the
Yeah.
season, I reviewed the episode with Penny, the blind girl, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Where she automatically assumes that Rocky, Tanya, and Billy, who offer to help her pick something up that she dropped, are doing it because she's blind, not
Right.
because Tommy, Billy, and Tanya are just nice people.
Right.
And if there had been any measure of prejudice against her in the episode, I could understand her having this complex. But there is none. No one, not a single person in that episode treats her like she's anything less than a normal person.
Right.
But then you get to this episode and you have Bulk and Skull dressing up like Native Americans. They want to be inclusive and diverse, but they don't know how to do it.
Yeah. And it does not age well because of that.
Yeah, and
So
yeah, no, we could sit here forever and talk about that.
yeah.
Fast forward to the luau, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. So oh no, the island dancers are cogs. So
What
we have this
there's this
giant
before
luau.
we get to the cogs and the dancers.
Right.
There's this moment where Kat and Tommy are sat together.
Yeah.
Now, bear in mind, earlier in the season, we found out about Tommy's Native American heritage.
Right.
He walks past Bulk and Skull, doesn't say a thing.
Nope. He just kind of ignores it.
And then they sit down together, and then the other Rangers show up, and they start walking towards the table that Tanya and Tommy are sat at. Sorry, Kat and Tommy are sat at. And Tanya's like, no, you leave them alone. And then they sit at the next table over. Like, it's like, what? They might not be sat at the same table.
Like go down the beach a little bit if that's what your prerogative is. I mean, like, it's literally like, all right, don't ignore them, let them be. But then, like, I think it's Adam or Rocky that can literally just be like, hey Tommy, how's the date going?
Just turn his head and go, sup, dude?
Hey man, you got that 20 that you owed me from last week? You know, and Tommy and Kat enjoy the dance, and like the rest of the Rangers, including Jason, get up and start doing a Aloha Oe dance and whatnot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I kind of buried the lead here, but Ernie then says, hey, we've got some dancers from Hawaii, and like they do this really cool shot with like the palms, and they like lift them up a little bit, and then you see the cogs, and they're wearing grass skirts and tikis. I'm impressed they knew what the theme of the party was more than Bulk and Skull personally.
Yeah. I think they just looked at what everyone else was wearing.
Maybe.
Because there were the actual dancers there as well, right? Teaching them the hula.
Yeah.
And then there were the cogs as well.
Oh man, did they do the whole thing where like they punch them out and then like steal their outfits? Is that what the cogs did?
I don't know.
But yeah, so yeah, what are your thoughts on the slow-mo fight, and like the weakest punch Tommy has ever thrown in slow-mo, by the way. It doesn't even like,
I'll be honest with you. I'll be 100% honest with you. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the action in this episode because this
Yeah.
episode isn't about the fighting. It's about the Rangers and the ancillary characters of the Rangers. Like it's about Kat and Tommy getting together. It's about Jason and his. Are they dating at this point, or does that not happen until next episode?
With Jason
with Emily.
I think that they kind of have a fling going on, but I don't think that they're a thing until like
next episode. Really? Okay, cool.
Yeah, but they're definitely like pursuing something together. It feels like.
Yeah.
The party looked. I mean, that looked like a pretty fun party to me.
It was a cool luau. And the fact there was a fight, it just makes it like any party I've ever been to.
Same. My final question here is, so what are your thoughts then? Having said that, thoughts on the Zord fight and Archerina / Gaskets falling out with King Mondo. Sprocket seems to have failed upwards here. Also, the Ultra Zord does not kill them. What's up with that?
Before we talk about the Zord fight and all that, there's a scene in the command center I want to talk about.
Okay.
Because Zordon turns to Alpha and is like, I have long had concerns about Jason's physiological makeup not being able to maintain the power of the Gold Ranger. And I'm like, he's been the Gold Ranger for, like, let me do the math here, 20-something episodes?
Mm-hmm.
And you've never brought this up before?
Well, we all know how Zordon likes to like keep things to himself unless it's absolutely necessary to tell the Rangers.
And then, yes, but still, this is. And how do the tests come back negative if you are concerned about his? And then Alpha's like, I don't know, I could contact the Treys on Triforia. And I'm like, how is Trey not your first phone call when something starts going wrong with the gold powers?
Yeah, like that's the speed dial option right there. It's like, hey, we have a problem.
It should be like, oh, Jason's having problems with the gold powers. Sure, Alpha's over there doing the tests. Someone should be like sliding into Trey's DMs.
Yeah.
Like hitting him up on his cell. Just being like, yo, WTF.
Yeah. Is there any way to get a red message on Messenger 3 times from 3 different people who are the same? Yeah, it's just, it's, this is what happens again when we try and dissect a kid's show. But yeah, Zordon, the more and more I watch the Zordon era, the more and more I go, Zordon, you are an incompetent.
It's like, I was thinking about this last night because to draw the curtain back a little bit, Brian and I recorded yesterday as well, as of the time of recording. I want to tell you what we recorded. We recorded yesterday. And I was sitting last night eating dinner. And I was thinking about how this experience must super suck for you. Because you loved the Mighty Morphing era.
Yes.
Right? You loved the Zordon era.
Yes.
And to go back now as an adult and realize just how awful it was.
I mean, this is part of why I got so into Super Sentai. It was able to fill that void in my heart where I was like, oh wow, yeah, Mighty Morphin wasn't the greatest thing, which it doesn't take away from the memories growing up, but as an adult, it makes me go, huh, okay.
I'm super looking forward to watching seasons you've not watched yet.
Yeah. Oh, dude, me too. Like,
Anyway, back to
yeah.
the plot.
Yes, back to the plot, sir.
But yeah, like we have a lot of lasts in this episode as well.
Yes.
For reasons that are, I don't want to say unclear, but Steve Cardenas isn't in the next episode. Like Rocky shows up to the fight at the end, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of lasts. Like it's the last time we see Rocky morph. It's the last time that like it's the last time Rocky pilots a Zord.
Same as Jason.
Actually, it's not the last time we see Rocky morph because he morphs then in the
Ninja Steel.
The Ninja Steel. But it's the last time we see him fight unmorphed.
Yeah.
It's the last time we'll see him turn into a Zeo Ranger or the Blue Ranger, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Which is weird because Ninja Steel, he transforms into Mighty Morphin, and then Jason in Beast Morphers does the same. Whatever. It's not important.
Yeah.
He doesn't go back to blue ever, it would seem.
No, it doesn't seem that way. Because remember, the Zeo powers aren't a thing after this season. Even though they,
which is
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But yeah, there's also this nice little episode moment where when Jason sees Tommy for the first time, Tommy's got like a cut on his cheek.
Yeah.
Jason David Frank got from a mosh pit.
Yeah. I didn't know when I was going to be able to like put that in the questions, but I was like, oh, that's cool. I wonder what band he saw. Part of me hopes he saw like Guar or something.
I don't know. But it, like, this is also part of the problem with Pyramidas as a Zord, right? Because they're like, let's form the Ultra Zord. And it's just all the other Zords get absorbed into Pyramidas.
And you can see like the tiniest bit of the cannons from the Red Battle Zord, like, peeking over his shoulders.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know. It just, this episode isn't great. You could absolutely skip it and get the same effect for next season to the next episode, which is sad to say for the penultimate episode of a season.
Yes. So that having been said, episode 50, Good as Gold, happens to be the season finale?
Question mark.
Ranger Wiki, again, thank you so much for the synopsis, the synopsi, whatever the plural is here. So whilst the evil space aliens, they put whilst in there.
Whilst.
Whilst. And Machine Empire start an all-out war on each other, Jason is dying due to the alien effects of the gold Zeo powers. But I thought that he got checked out with a clean bill of health. Now the Zeo Rangers and Treo Triforia must brave their way to the desert whilst, there's that word again, contending with King Mondo and his forces.
You know that whilst is a really common English word, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I tend to just say while, though, or I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah.
I do get that. But yeah, so we begin this episode with Jason running around in the same force Adam was training in.
Yeah.
Turns out somebody found a location they liked on Zeo. And yeah, I dig it. It's not, the barren wasteland of LA. Looks really cool. I love this forest. So we get Jason immediately bumping into Rita and Zed, and a fight between the Tangas and the Cogs breaks out. Were you rooting for any particular side in this necessarily fight? Also, I don't know about you, but like I was looking at the Tangas, the way that they were fighting, and they tore into one of those Cogs like a Romero zombie in Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
Which was like,
there's another moment where a Cog puts a Tenga in a knee bar.
Yeah.
Starts elbowing it in the stomach.
Mm-hmm.
Was I rooting for one side, Rita and Zed, because the
Yeah.
Machine Empire suck, and also Rita's line when she first sees Jason is like, "I always thought you looked better in red."
Better.
Was chef's kiss.
Yeah. That whole scene was just, I don't know. It was a welcome break from like all the other stuff going on. And yeah, I was kind of rooting for the Tangas too.
The weird thing is like there's like 7 Tengas and 7 cogs that like beat each other up. And then at the end of the fight, Mondo's like, "Oh, we appear to be at stalemate." And I'm like, don't you have an entire invasion fleet?
Yeah, because remember, and you can go back to season 3 when we talked about this, like there's only a handful of Tangas, I believe.
Yeah.
So
Unless they
automatically
breeding, but I don't want to think about that.
me either. Hey, yeah, like he says that, but at the beginning of the season, he says, yeah, they can put it, or we're told that they can put out 1 cog an hour. You automatically have the upper hand there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Continuity in Power Rangers, everybody. We find out that Jason, for lack of a better term, is dying. The Gold Ranger powers are fading and taking Jason's life force with it. We then get this plot point that involves Traya Triforia, Aquatar, the Rangers, and a triangulatory beam. What are your thoughts on this? It's really kind of convoluted, but not really, because we have to A, transfer the powers away from Jason, and B, reunite the 3 trays, while at the same time triangulating a beam off of 3 planets that are at a certain point, thankfully at
Precisely
this point, precisely the right time. They didn't have to wait until like a weird Wednesday in October for this to happen, because then Jason would be dead, unfortunately. What are your thoughts on this?
You know what I'm gonna say, right?
Yes. Yeah.
What I'm gonna say is, imagine if they'd taken some time with this, right? Imagine if they'd taken some time and built up the fact that things were going wrong for Jason. Like every now and again, he just lost control of Pyramidas, or couldn't use the super speed, or had a problem morphing once. And it slowly built to this, and they had to figure out a way to transfer the powers to Trey and all of this. Like, if Zordon knew about this beam, why didn't they just do it when Trey was here in the first place?
Yeah.
Like, it's just everything in this episode feels rushed. Everything. Like, this feels like it should have been like a 3 or 4 part season finale that's condensed down into 1 part, but also doesn't conclude anything because they've got a movie to do.
Yeah. Which we've talked about on this show how we feel about 3-parters in Power Rangers. And good Lord, when we were recording season 3, that almost killed us at some point. It just did. But that being said, I agree that because there's a difference between doing a 3-parter that just kind of goes nowhere for the sake of doing a 3-parter, and then like you look at this plot point with Jason, and I completely agree. Like, it comes out of nowhere. You have Zordon just really needs to start talking a little better to his teammates or the Rangers, because he's withholding information at this point. And
well, that won't be a problem for much longer, will it?
No, it won't. It just Zordon to me puts out information be, and it feels like he does it in a way where the writers are like, well, we have to explain away a thing, or we have to do a thing. Does it make sense? Who cares? We're on a time crunch. And that's why you inevitably get Zordon after they could have solved this problem when it was a small fire and now it's a big fire, saying, oh, I know how we can help out Trey. I know we have a train. We go talk to the Aquitian Rangers. We need to go talk with them and then like do all this stuff and like, wish on a monkey's paw and like face to the equinox and like what's going on here? Like
Yeah, it's like
it's frustrating. It's really frustrating.
Literally every plot arc in this episode could use more time.
Yes.
Like the fight between Zed and Rita and the Machine Empire could use more time. The coming up with a plan to beat the Machine Empire could use more time. The plan to save Jason could use more time. Bulk and Skull's thing could use more time. Everything in this episode could use more time.
To that end, I do have to say while I'm frustrated, I'm also kind of impressed they managed to put that all into a 26 episode like.
But did they?
Was it? I mean, not impressed as in like wow, but I'm just like wow, that's a lot of plot or that's a lot of story that you're trying to resolve.
That's kind of my point, right?
Yeah.
There was no plot to
wasn't
the Machine Empire. There was no big final climactic encounter between the Machine Empire and the Power Rangers. It was Trey getting his powers back, them going up. We got no time to summon the Zords. Let's just get big and kick Lord Mondo in his head. And even then, they don't actually beat the Machine Empire. It's Rita and Zed that blow them up,
which is ridiculous. And this, I think this is why I don't think of Zeo as fondly as other seasons, is because it doesn't have a finale.
Yeah. Now, with the Mighty Morphing seasons, that's fine because they're all called Mighty Morphin and they're a continuous one to the other. But Zeo needed and arguably Zeo's finale is the Turbo movie, right?
Yes.
Arguably. But even then, the Zeo powers aren't taken away. They're not destroyed. They're not blocked off. It's just Zordon suddenly goes, "Ooh, cars." For some reason. Like the only time you even see a Zeo suit in the Turbo movie is when Cat falls into the water and then it just demorphs.
Yeah.
Like it's awful. Like for a power source that we have been told gets exponentially stronger the longer you have it. Why do they never use them? Anyway, this season, this as a conclusion to Zeo is really bad. This Machine Empire that we've been told for 50 episodes at this point, the people that were strong enough to run Zed and Rita off. Now, there is a nice little line that, oh, I thought you were scared of us. Well, you've become kind of an intergalactic joke at this point. It was quite nice. But, like, the weird thing about the Machine Empire is they've established before that King Mondo can get blown up and just get rebuilt, right?
Yeah.
It happens in this episode. Like, Frey and Tommy beat Mondo, he explodes, and then he's in one piece on the moon again. And then he gets exploded by the bomb that Rita and Zed leave behind, and his head's talking on the moon. Like, just nothing is resolved. Zeo just stops.
Which is
it doesn't
my
end,
biggest issue.
It stops.
because hey, we have to get Turbo into production because we're gonna keep the majority of the Rangers here, except for Steve Cardenas, and
He's Steve Cardenas, who is, I'm pretty sure, not in this episode.
no, like again, like he's gone because of a like what is it, a boxing training?
It happens in the Turbo movie.
Yeah.
He gets injured. He hurts his back.
Yes, but
carry on.
Here he's at a camp.
He's at martial arts camp. And you learn that because of a throwaway line. Like he pops back into existence. He teleports in to save the Trays and Jason. And he's already morphed. And the only thing he says is not a problem. And it's in answer to Tommy going, I'm sorry we pulled you away from martial arts camp. Just a throwaway line.
It does make me wonder what was like, maybe he had another project going on. Like it, and it's so weird too, because like we know he shows up even if it's just momentarily in the Turbo movie. So it's not like he got fired.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah. I don't like it's bizarre. And the Zeo, as much as I do like the Zords, I do like the suit, but like, good Lord, this season wraps up like in such a just like, what was that? Like, there's no indication, and that's the problem too. There's no indication that this is the finale, because like, yes, while King Mondo gets blown up, like we said, he can be brought back, and Zed's back. He literally says, "We're back." The dinosaur
and
story.
Then we never see him again. Well,
we never see him again.
They're back on the moon, but they're not trying to take over the world, which is weird.
Yeah,
because
they're just.
I'm fairly sure Diva talks and Rita talk in the Turbo.
From what I understand, maybe Rita and Zed are trying to start a family. I don't know, but then we see this talk between, like, literally the last shot of this episode is Tommy and Jason talking, saying that they'll always be friends, which is kind of funny with some behind the scenes stuff going on between them. They're actors, and then like Jason goes off with Emily, which is, I guess, now his girlfriend. We're led to believe that. And then the last shot is Tommy and Kat walking off holding hands, and I'm like, cool, when's the next episode? Like, it just feels like,
and the bizarre thing about it all in totality is, arguably, yes, you could say that when we were talking about the intro to Zeo, and we were all recording together way back at the beginning of the season, I said, when asked about how we felt about it as a season opener, I said, it just feels like I'm watching another episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
And this feels very much like the season finales for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, insofar as it doesn't do a season finale, it just moves into the next thing. The only time we ever got a true season finale for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was season 3, when everything exploded, right?
Yes.
And we'll get something similar during Turbo.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very much the season 1, season 2 Mighty Morphin thing, where they're not trying to wrap up the season. They're trying to get to the next story beat, right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel like a season finale. The reason why I think it stands out that it doesn't feel like a season finale is because this isn't called Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Zeo. It's called Power Rangers Zeo. And every season that has a name that isn't Mighty Morphin other than Zeo, has some kind of season finale to it. Like in Turbo, everything gets blown up and they head off to space, and then in space there's Countdown to Destruction, and then after that point we're out of the Zordon era, and every season is its own story that wraps up in the finale.
Yep.
Until we get to the Neo Saban when it's 2 seasons because
Yeah.
Nickelodeon or whatever. But the point being, this is by far the weirdest season finale of any season of Power Rangers.
Yeah, and it stands out too, and like you can't really unsee it. It just you're just, I don't know. I'm just sitting there having watched this years later, going, "Is that it?"
Yeah,
like that's okay. What a strong
there's
finish to
a brilliant moment in this, and I don't know whether they did this intentionally, right? In the wrap up where it's like Jason and Tommy talking before they go off to talk to, before Jason goes off to Emily, and Tommy and Kat walk off hand in hand. There's a great little moment where Tommy claps Jason on the shoulder and goes, "No matter what, we'll always be friends." And I've seen the Turbo movie, so I know that's not the case.
Yeah.
Which is literally the very next thing in chronology, by the way.
Yeah.
I quite like. I don't know whether that was intentional. If they knew they were going to have a mind-controlled Jason in the Turbo movie, but
they could have done that as a rewrite.
Yeah.
Like, hey, wouldn't this be funny?
Yeah. That gives them way too much credit for thinking about the writing, though.
You're right. So, I don't know. Did you have any other things you wanted to talk about these episodes, or?
Just a couple of things. Bulk and Skull's.
Oh, right. I completely skipped that. Sorry.
Bulk and Skull's story about getting the offer from the French private eye.
Yeah. Not Inspector Clouseau.
Definitely not. But absolutely Inspector Clouseau.
Yeah. Hi, not Peter Sellers.
Yeah. I don't know.
I okay, so I thought it was kind of funny, the whole little, like, they're cleaning up in the room, and all of a sudden this little balloon comes in, and like Skull pops the balloon accidentally, and they get this note, and they're told to be at the park at 1600 hours, and he's like, well, there's only 12 hours on the clock. It's like, Bulk has to be like, it's military time, dude. What? Like, we were cops. We worked with military time. What do you do? Anyways, but like, they dress up as women and go sit out at this park, and yeah, they get offered to go to France, like, and they say,
this,
hey,
like, super detective thing.
By this time tomorrow you will be in France. And it's like, wow, that's a pretty direct flight. Wow, like, no time to pack up, get your things together, get your anything sorted. It's just like, yep, tomorrow, Gail Perry, you're gonna be doing it up there. And it's like, okay, cool. And obviously this was meant to write them out so that they could have their own spin-off show,
which didn't come to pass, right? Like,
yeah, I think they were starting to film a pilot, and like, they were just like, this isn't going to work, and they canceled it. It's not the first time that they were going to try and do a spin-off series from, like, because I remember when Big Bad Beetleborgs was a thing, they were talking about doing a spin-off show with just the villains, or like, not the villains, but like, the monsters that were in the mansion, Blue Jay Leno and the werewolf and all that. So like, this is not the first, I guess this is the first time that they were going to try and do that, and for whatever reason they just were never able to make a spin-off series like that happen, which I don't know why. I mean, you got a network that has shows like Bobby's World on it. It's like I'm sure it'll fit right in with all the other stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. It's. I don't know how
Do you?
well a spin-off would have worked.
Yeah.
Right? It just. I don't know if they've got. I love Bulk and Skull. Right.
Yeah.
I just don't know if they've got the.
Star power to drive a show.
Not star power, but like the development. Like
Yeah.
you'd need to like get their parents involved, and you'd need to get like their like you'd have to give them an extended cast. And I don't know whether that was the idea of sending them to France, was to like to give them this extended cast that we for some reason hadn't met before.
Yeah. Well, here's a question. Because now we're talking about because we have so little to work with the finale of Zio. Let's talk about this hypothetical Bulk and Skull show. Now, at this point, they're still in high school, right?
Yes.
Would they be
No. Bulk and Skull are graduate. The Rangers are still in high school.
okay? But Bulk and Skull have graduated.
This
Okay,
this is
which
what I was trying to talk about when they joined the police force, and
yeah,
then technically still being in the same year as the Rangers, but the Rangers are still in school, but they're not because they're in the police force, and then they're working as private eyes, but then they're the same age as the Rangers, but the Rangers are still in school, but they're not.
yeah.
Doesn't
Like,
make sense.
so would they then like maybe they could have done something where it's like, oh, well, as it turns out, uh, you guys dropped out of school to like do this stuff, and like there's some weird thing where like this guy was like offering them a job, but then at the same time, it's like, oh, well, if you're gonna work with us, you have to get school credits, and like they go to a French public school and they have to deal with that, and like that's how you introduce like new main characters for them, and you have this work life balance that they have to deal with while also just being Bulk and Skull, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh wow, school's way more different here in Paris than it is in the States, you know and Skull obviously being like, yeah, well, the food's a lot better, stuff like that. I don't
Yeah.
know, it almost to me, it almost to me, I almost picture like a way watered down version, like a PG version of Eurotrip, kind of, sort of.
Yeah. I know what you're trying to say, but like, knowing the European education system,
Okay.
Bulk and Skull would just bear in mind that in England, there's no being kept back a year if you fail, or in Europe, there's no tests at the end of the year to see if you fail. You're just put into the next year, and if you don't know what's going on, you're borked,
Oof.
right? Like, or at least that's how it was when I was in school, which was around the time this was being, or I just kind of finished. Well, sort of. Anyway, the point being, Bulk and Skull would not be in a good place in the European education system.
No.
And I don't think that would be very interesting. If I'm
Yeah.
honest.
Which is probably why we never got to see the show.
Yeah. So I'm looking on the internet, right? And
Mhm.
apparently there is a video called "The Good, the Bad, and the Stupid: The Misadventures of Bulk and Skull." which is a video spin-off centered around Bulk's skull, and then Lieutenant Stone appears at the end. And apparently he's no one kind of it fit. They tried to make this like a pilot to see if the two could carry their own show, but they made the pilot a clip show.
Why?
I don't know. Anyway,
wow.
we're rambling at this point.
Yeah.
Suffice to say, Good as Gold is an awful season finale. Honestly, the Turbo movie is not much better, but everything is rushed. It doesn't feel wrapped up in any way. There's no weight to the final defeat of this machine empire. It's just
kind of like
there.
All right, see you next episode.
Yeah, the defeat of the machine empire feels a lot like they've just beaten the villain of the week.
Yeah, and it should never feel like that, in my opinion. It feels like once the big bad is gone, it's like that's cause for celebration, but it's like nothing of that sort happens here. But yeah, so that was Hawaii Zio and Good as Gold. Thank you all for tuning into another episode of that. Ben, where can we find you on the World Wide Web?
You can find me on Twitter at Bob T Goldfish. You can find you can find me doing the video game thing over at twitch.tv/321TV, 321_TV. And then you can find the sister show to Voices from the Grid, Awesomania at thxthockey.com/x75dungeons/Awesomania, which, long story short, is a wrestling podcast that me and my friend and co-host of Voices from the Grid, Michael Lindenbaum, host once a month, where we get together with a guest, most often our friend Matt Carroll, and we watch a pay-per-view from what is as of the time of recording currently the year 1997. We riff along with it. It's designed to be watched alongside the pay-per-view and just sort of listen to in the same thing. So yeah.
Right on. 97 was a good year for wrestling. You can find
you say that.
See, I got into it. So you can find the Twitter for this show at VFTG_PR. You can find my personal Twitter at Wondering Geek. And you can also find me at catswavestudios.com, where you can check out, we're friends of the show, check out our shows, Boulder Going Nowhere and my beer review show, Wondering Geek. And you can also find me, the Pink Ranger, on Twitter at Blue Ranger B-Ride, because I still have not changed that yet. And,
I don't think you should.
I probably won't. I really probably won't. And with that being said,
you can also find this show on Google Podcasts and Spotify, which we need to start remembering to say.
Absolutely. And with that being said, sir, Ben, please, for the final time, take us out.
I usually give a bit of a spiel before I go into the finale and the ending of the show, but much like the ending of Zio, I'm just going to get on with it and not do it. So that being said, ending as we always do by saying, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, in the words of the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, be excellent to each other. Party on non-gender specific honorifics.
And until our next more phenomenal episode, be sure to grab your Zeonizers and your Zeo crystals, and may the power protect you.
Peace.